Dubai, a city that didn't exist in any meaningful economic sense 60 years ago. Today, it's a $152 billion economy, home to the world's tallest building, the busiest international airport, and a brand so powerful it competes with entire nations for investment and talent. But here's what almost nobody talks about. Is what Dubai built actually sustainable? Or is it the most impressive house of cards in economic history? Let's find out. Before we dig into the data, I want to lay out 5 questions this analysis is designed to answer. Keep these in your head throughout. By the end, you'll have enough information to form your own verdict. Question 1. How did a fishing village become a $152 billion economy in just 50 years? That speed of transformation has almost no precedent in economic history. Most countries take centuries to industrialize. Dubai did it in a single generation. Question 2. And this one is the most provocative. We always hear that Dubai doesn't rely on oil, less than 1% of GDP. That's the headline number you see everywhere. But is Dubai's oil independence real, or does it simply outsource its oil dependency to Abu Dhabi, its wealthier, quieter big brother who bankrolls the federal government? Question 3. Real estate. Dubai's property market just had its biggest year in history, nearly a trillion dirhams in transactions. But here's the uncomfortable number. There are 366,000 new housing units being delivered by 2028. Is this market a ticking time bomb, or is there enough demand to absorb all that supply? Question 4. And this one keeps economists up at night. 90% of the people living in Dubai weren't born there. They have no citizenship, no permanent right to stay. What happens to an economy when virtually its entire workforce, its consumer base, its tax base, can pack up and leave overnight? And finally, question 5. Everyone from Saudi Arabia to Rwanda is trying to copy the Dubai model. Build a gleaming city, attract foreign capital, brand yourself as a global hub. But can it actually be replicated? Or was this a one-time historical accident that required a specific combination of geography, timing, leadership, and luck that simply can't be manufactured? Those are our 5 questions. Let's dig into the evidence. To understand Dubai, you need to understand how fast this happened. 1966, oil is discovered. At this point, Dubai's GDP is under $200 million. The economy is pearl diving, fishing, and basic trade. But here's the crucial insight. Dubai's rulers immediately understood something most oil states didn't. Their reserves were small. Unlike Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia, they couldn't afford to be complacent. 1985, Jebel Ali port opens. This is arguably the single most important strategic decision in Dubai's entire history. Rather than just pumping oil and hoping for the best, they built the largest man-made port in the world. This was the pivot from oil extraction to trade facilitation. It told the world, we're not just a petrostate, we're a logistics hub. Anmaste, 1999, the Burj Al Arab opens. Most economists would dismiss a hotel as economically insignificant. But this is where Dubai figured out something brilliant: the power of brand as economic strategy. A single building turned Dubai into a global luxury destination overnight. It wasn't just architecture, it was a marketing strategy that positioned an entire city as a premium product. Every luxury tourist, every high net worth individual who relocated, every corporate HQ that followed, trace it back to this moment of branding genius. 2009, the crash. And this is where the story gets complicated. Dubai World, the government's investment vehicle, announces it can't pay $26 billion in debt. Global markets panic. For a moment, it looked like the end of the Dubai experiment. The emirate had leveraged itself massively during the 2004 to 2008 boom, building on borrowed money. When the global financial crisis hit, real estate collapsed, projects froze, and the debt became unserviceable. This was supposed to be proof that Dubai was nothing more than a mirage built on sand. But here's what happened next. Abu Dhabi stepped in with a bailout, and Dubai survived. Fast forward to 2025. Oil is less than 1% of GDP. Tourism, logistics, financial services, and real estate drive the economy. GDP hit $152 billion. Growth is projected at 4.5% for 2026. The transformation is objectively real. But the question is whether the foundation underneath is solid or whether 2009 was a preview of what happens when the music stops. Let's look at where Dubai's money actually comes from. Trade and logistics is the anchor at 27%. This is Jebel Ali Port, Emirates Airline, and Dubai's position as connective tissue between Asia, Europe, and Africa. 2 billion people live within a 4-hour flight radius. Services at 12%. The DIFC hosts over 4,300 firms. Tourism at 11%. Nearly 20 million visitors in 2025, a record. Look at these stat cards. Less than 1% oil, down from 50% in 1990. That's a genuine structural transformation in one generation. GDP growth at 4.5% projected for 2026, and Jebel Ali is the 9th largest port globally. These aren't vanity metrics. This is real economic infrastructure. Let's break down the 4 pillars, starting with the 2 most established, trade and logistics. The backbone. Jebel Ali processes over 15.5 million container units per year. Combined with Emirates Airline and a global free zone network, Dubai has made itself irreplaceable in supply chains. Even if you've never visited Dubai, your products have probably passed through it. Tourism. 19.59 million visitors in 2025. What makes this smart is the diversification within diversification. Business tourism, medical tourism, events, shopping. Revenue per available hotel room rose 11% year over year. Now, the other 2 pillars. Financial services, the zero income tax proposition shines here. The DIFC operates under English common law, separate from UAE civil law. That legal distinction matters enormously for international capital. When Moody's upgrades your banking sector to positive, that's institutional validation, not marketing. Real estate. 917 billion AED in transactions in 2025. Over 270,000 deals. Crucial detail, over 70% are cash-based. The market isn't built on the same leverage that destroyed the US housing market in 2008. Now, here's where we get uncomfortable. Everyone shows you the chart saying Dubai gets less than 1% of GDP from oil. Technically true, but it hides a much deeper relationship. Dubai has less than 4 billion barrels of oil. Abu Dhabi holds over 95% of the UAE's reserves. Dubai's sovereign wealth fund is roughly $300 billion. Abu Dhabi's is over $1.1 trillion, nearly 4 times larger. In 2009, who wrote the check? Abu Dhabi. Dubai doesn't tax its residents, so who pays for the military? Federal infrastructure? Abu Dhabi's oil money. This is outsourced oil dependency. Dubai is independent of direct oil revenue, not of oil itself. Now, real estate, the biggest single risk factor. The bull case is genuinely strong. Over 70% of transactions are cash-based, low leverage risk. Yields range 5 to 9%, compared to 2 to 4% in London or New York. Zero income tax amplifies net returns. 2025 was the strongest year in Dubai property history, population growing at 5% plus annually. If you just look at these numbers, Dubai real estate looks like one of the best risk-adjusted bets in global property. But now, the bear case. 366,000 units by 2028, a massive supply wave. UBS bubble index flags, elevated risk. Fitch projects a 15% correction. Off-plan premiums have shrunk to less than 5%, a classic saturation signal. My read, hot market, not yet a systemic bubble. Cash-heavy transactions provide a buffer, but the 2026 to 2028 supply wave is the biggest stress test since 2009. Now, something that rarely appears in Dubai economic analyses but absolutely should, the human cost. 90% expatriate population, shifts commonly exceeding 12 hours, and there is no minimum wage in the UAE. None. This matters economically because Dubai's competitiveness is partially built on a labor model where workers have limited bargaining power. Any reform changing this dynamic would fundamentally alter the cost structure. 3 structural labor vulnerabilities. Debt bondage. Agencies charge $2,000 to $5,000 in recruitment fees, often a year's salary. Workers arrive already in debt. Wage theft. Human rights. Watch found wage withholding is the single most common complaint. Workers report months without payment, with passports historically confiscated, no safety net, zero unemployment insurance, no citizenship pathway regardless of years served, immediate deportation risk. These aren't just human rights issues, they're structural economic subsidies. Zoom out to the broader structural risk. 90% expatriate, 10% national, the most extreme demographic dependency in any major economy. Dubai runs on a flywheel. Low taxes attract talent, talent creates activity, revenue funds infrastructure, infrastructure attracts more talent. Brilliant going forward, but flywheels spin both ways. In 2009, Dubai lost roughly 8% of its population in months. Property crashed over 50%, and the alternatives are improving. Riyadh is spending over $1 trillion to replicate the model. Dubai
ठीक है
world-class infrastructure from nothing, a brand rivaling nations 50 times larger, global logistics crossroads, $152 billion GDP with less than 1% from oil. By any